In the new firmware upgrade for the Leica SL2-S version 2.0, there's a new feature called Follow Focus, and this allows you to set focus points and have the camera automatically move its focus point from one to the other without you having to do it manually. And this makes it much more accurate because it's really difficult to do by hand. You can have up to 3 points and you can freely move between those 3 points. Let me just show you some of the menu options that are going to be relevant to this particular task. So let's go into the menus and go into focusing. The first thing I want to show you is MF setup, which is the last option on the front page. Now your camera may be set to standard MF, which is the way the camera comes out of the box, but we have these options here, and this is the number of degrees that you have to turn the focusing ring on the lens round to go from near to far focus. So the lower the number of degrees, the more sensitive it is. And I find the 90-degree setting to be absolutely perfect for stills photography like portraits, but you can use it to in whatever means you find most effective for your particular style of photography. But in this case, I'm going to set it to 90 degrees. Then if we go to focus mode at the top, go to follow focus, and then I've got some options here. Start follow focus with recording. I've got that turned off. That would mean that if I had it turned on, it would start the sequence of focusing according to my programming as soon as I hit the record button. Now personally, I prefer to let it make sure everything's rolling correctly and then start the focusing sequence, but again, you might find that useful. The follow focus speed can be anything from very low to very high, and there is quite a variation between those. I suggest you do some tests of your own to see which ones work for you best. Medium is a good balance. There's a big jump from high to very high, but you'll find that out by trying it. Then coming out of that, back into focus mode there, follow focus. The last one is which focus mode does it return to when you turn off the follow focus. I have it set to manual focus. You do have the option of going back to one of the other focus modes, whichever one you prefer, or you can go back to whichever one you happen to have been using before. Personally, I leave it on manual focus because that's where I mostly have this camera set to. Okay. That's the options. What we need to do now is to go and show you how these are set up, and I'm just going to move over to a little studio setup and I'll show you how these are programmed. So here we have two antique cameras, and I'm going to pull focus from the rear Leica 3 to the near Leica M9. So the way this works is we go into the menu and we go to choose the focusing mode and we go to follow focus. Then when I come back to the viewfinder, I've got this screen set up here, position 1, position 2, position 3. The idea is that we set position 1 and position 2, one for each camera, and then by pressing those buttons I can move between them. So let's just do that. Position 1. The first setting, you'll see the little dot is at the left hand side. It says 0 seconds there. This is the time it would wait between focus points, and I'm going to leave it at 0 because I'm going to control it manually. So I'll hit the tick to do that. Now I need to focus critically, and that is focused okay. I can move the viewfinder around a little bit with the joystick, make sure it's critically focused, and hit the tick. Then position 2, 0 seconds, tick, move my focus point and magnify for the M9 and focus critically on the M9, and then hit the tick, and we're done. Watch, if I hit this button here, it will move straight to the other point, and then if I hit this one here, it will move to the nearer camera, and I've got it on medium speed. If I go out of the menu and go to my focus menu settings into follow focus, and I go to follow focus, I can change the speed to high. Let's go to very high, then you'll see it working really quickly. Okay, now if I go back to position 1, bang, position 2, bang. See how quick it is? Really fast. So you've got full control there. And then all I have to do now is to hit the record button. There's my tally frame lit up, and I can now wait a few seconds with the focus on this distant camera. Then I just very gently touch the screen there and it focuses on the M9 in the foreground. Wait a few seconds and just gently touch the screen there. Be very careful not to jerk the camera back like that. It's really as simple as that. And then when you're finished, you can hit exit and you're done. And turn off the video recording. One thing we haven't discussed yet are what these other buttons do here. There's a little down arrow, there's a little tool symbol here, and there's a start button here. Well, the down arrow is easy. That just hides the bottom of the screen, or the buttons at the bottom. Let me just show you what these two buttons here do in combination. So I'm going to set up a little programming sequence. So the first one is I'm going to go to position 1, go into the tools, I'm going to set this to 0 seconds, and I'll show you why in a sec. Then I'm going to make sure that my focusing is on that rear camera there and hit the tick. Then I'm going to go to focus point 2 and I'm going to use the tools, and I'm going to set this to 4 seconds. You'll see why in a moment. And then I'm going to check the focus, double check focus on there, and now I'm good to go. Now what happens is if I go back to focus point number 1, okay, you'll see it focused on this rear camera here. Now when I press start, it will wait 4 seconds. So the 4 seconds is the 4 seconds between it going from point 1 to point 2. So by hitting start now, this will count down, and then after 4 seconds it will focus on this camera. This means that you can trigger the focusing sequence without touching the camera. You have to touch it to hit the start button, but then if you've got a reasonable wait period, any vibrations that you might cause by tapping the screen will have died down, and that could be significant if you're using something like the 90 to 280 lens on a tripod, because the merest tap on that will cause it to shimmy ever so slightly, and that does show up in a video if you're not really careful. So that's the follow focus mode. I think you'll agree that it makes life a lot easier, because pulling focus from A to B is just difficult. This enables you to program it and get a professional result every time. One of the more advanced features on the Leica SL2-S is the ability to shoot in L-log mode, which compresses the tonal range so that it can be captured with better shadow detail and better highlight information. If you do turn on the L-log mode, you may see something looking very wishy-washy like this. It's a very, very flat result, and that's supposed to be like that. But it's nice to be able to preview the results. So you can choose to preview the results of this L-log mode by using a LUT, a lookup table, and there's two built into the camera, natural and classic. But in firmware version 2, you can put your own custom LUTs into the camera and have it preview those. And those LUTs, LUTs, you can create yourself using other software. Certainly DaVinci Resolve will allow you to do that, and there are other applications too. So you can create an actual look that you want your footage to look like later and preview it as you shoot. So let me just show you how you do that. First of all, I've created a custom button on the front of the camera by long pressing it and choosing the option to access my lookup table previews. Right now it's turned off. So to go from this flat look here, I can now choose natural, I can choose classic, somewhat different, or I can choose one of these three slots here. Now there's nothing in those slots yet because I haven't installed the LUT yet, and I'll show you how to do that. So let me just go back into the menus and go to video settings and go to video gamma, go to settings, go to L-log and go to custom LUT. Now you'll see there are 6 entries here, 2 for each of the slots, and each of those is either for the EVF LCD, which is the camera, or the HDMI output if you're using an external monitor to operate the camera. A lot of people do that because you can put a bigger monitor, which is easier to see and focus and so on. So all you need to do is copy your custom LUT onto the memory card, but there's a couple of things you need to be aware of. First of all, when custom LUTs are saved by that particular application, they probably have the file extension CUBE, cube.cube. The camera only recognizes a 3 alphanumeric extension, so 3 letters or 3 numbers. So you need to edit that file so that it's not 4 but 3 letters, so CUB. So it must be CUB at the end, otherwise the camera just won't see the file. Also, the file name is limited to 8 characters, and if it's longer than that, it will be truncated by the camera. You'll still see it, but the name will be shorter, and it often has a little tilde at the end with a 1 or a 2. So just be aware that that will happen. So it's not a bad idea to actually edit your file name, first of all to go to CUB, and the second thing is to make it 8 alphanumeric characters or less. I've got a lookup table called 80s look, 1980s look, and I've edited that file name to be 80s.cub. So if we go into the camera now, and that file has been copied onto the highest level of the directory on the memory card, just like you do the firmware. So you just copy it directly onto the card, not into the subfolders. If you do that and you've got the right extension, the camera will see it quite effortlessly. So where it says unused, I simply click the joystick, and now there is that file. And on the memory card, it's called 80s.cub. All I need to do is click to select, and if there were more than one on the card, I could select any of them here, but I can only have 3 installed at any one time. Click that, go down to the HDMI one, assuming I want to use the HDMI output, click that, and we've got those installed. Now, when I come out of that and click my custom button on the front of the camera, I now have the choice of my natural, classic, or 80s, or anything else I've installed. So if I go to 80s, I've now got this slightly dull, dark look. And if I go to my natural, I've got this brighter, more vivid look. And that's just 2 different ways of processing the footage later. But remember, this is not recorded like this. You still get the recording looking flat and low in contrast. That's what it's supposed to do. This is just a preview of what that footage will look like after it's graded. So it's a convenience. So you can see what, from the creative point of view, it's nice to be able to get an idea of what that footage is going to look like when you're actually filming.